you're running a YouTube live stream from Zoom
Yeah.
or nice. Got it.
And we're on now. So let's see. I think we're on. Let me make sure. Basically, we're on before it actually tells us that we're on. I've learned this over time. So welcome, everybody. Yep, we're on. Welcome, everybody. We're going to do a live stream. Today, I'm with my friend, Ben Pelton. We've known each other for a long time, actually. We first met in 2016, and we were part of the very first, whoops, let's make sure I have this all set up right here before I get too far into it. Get all excited, you know. Let's see here. We were part of the very first ever group to train with the Iceman, Wim Hof himself, and we trained in Colorado. First of all, we trained in, where was it? It was LA, and that's where we first met.
Yep.
And then that was 2016. And then we trained with Wim out in Colorado in 2016. And the one thing that I always remember the most is we all were driving to find some kind of open source of water. Do you remember this? And Wim was in the car at the very front, and we were following him. And, you know, is this guy from the Netherlands leading us to some place in Colorado as if, oh, yeah, of course, I know exactly where I'm going. And he took us on this wild goose chase. And eventually we did find a body of water. But at one point, remember, his car like just got real slow. And we were like, what? It's like almost like stop. And so, like, and we were wondering, is it the kilometers versus the miles per hour? Is something like that? And apparently it was, you remember Dave Whitley, Iron Tamer Dave Whitley? Apparently he was telling some kind of a story, and Wim got so into the story that he turned around as he was driving. He just turned around and like pretty much stopped the car. And we were all like, what's going on? Yeah. But eventually we found that body of water. And we all got in. It was the first time we'd done a cold dip with Wim, and he had he forgot his towel, and they had a rental car, so he just dropped trowel and then went in, and we're like, okay, hey, you know,
that was our first introduction in Colorado. a full moon from Wim running into the lake. I was like, okay.
Yeah, okay. You know, that's how the Europeans do it, maybe, is what I thought. I was like, well, you know, it's whatever. And so,
normal.
Yeah, it's totally normal. And I just remember it was freezing out, and of course the water was cold. And we got out, and it was, of course, you know, it was freezing air on freezing skin. And I was like, did I join a cult? I was like, yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, years have passed. Lots of things have happened. You have really, I don't think, were you doing jiu-jitsu at the time back then?
No. So 2016, I was not doing any jiu-jitsu at all. I didn't start jiu-jitsu until 2018.
So, okay. So 2018, and then it was on, man. I mean,
yeah, pretty much full-time jiu-jitsu athlete, training sometimes twice a day, mornings 6 a.m. and then training in the evenings as well. So for the last almost 5 years now, coming up in February 1st will be 5 years. So,
5 years straight up, balls to the wall, really. You know,
on the journey to black belt, really. You know, that's the real goal, is to get the black belt. So this weekend actually is our end of the year seminar, and I'm hoping for that purple belt promotion.
Oh, dude, yes.
Yeah, so it's been a long time at blue belt and working hard to get to the purple belt, but like you said earlier, I had a fight this weekend on Sunday.
Yes. Congratulations on that. Tell us about that fight.
Yeah, so that fight was a last minute decision. They
Oh
messaged me
yeah.
Thursday night and was like, "Hey, would you like to fight Luke Russell?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it. It's in 3 days. I'm a little overweight. I needed to lose 7 pounds for the weigh-in on
Oh
Saturday
my.
night."
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
so
Oh my God.
I, I honestly was just for a second contemplating just being like, you know what, you gave me a short notice, so I didn't make weight. Like, come
Yeah.
on, how can you expect someone to get it done? But the
Seven
thing
pounds.
is
Right.
I applied for 175 on the application, so that's what I agreed that I would show up at. So I
Okay.
thought, even though it was a short notice, because I applied 2 weeks prior to this notification.
Okay.
So, I was already under the impression that I wasn't selected to be on the card for
I
this event.
see.
So I was going to use that excuse, but I'm not someone to do that. And so I got in the sauna and I sweated it out for a solid hour. And then I took a break and did some breath work because I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't make weight. I sweated for an hour and I still was not at weight. I needed to lose like another 2 pounds. And I'm like, oh
Oh
Lord,
my
no,
God.
this is not what I was expecting. So I got back in for another 30 minutes in the sauna and then I was at below weight. So I was about 2 pounds under
Oh
the
my
weight.
God.
So yeah,
And just think
I
about
weighed
that
in,
because
all good.
yeah, and then you had to drink that much water to be back to hydrated state. It's like when you think about that many pounds of H2O that was in you, right? That is now out of you that you're like, okay, where, okay, you know?
Yeah, you could see my eyes in the because I did the video, the weigh-in virtually, and my
Oh yeah.
eyes are just like the adrenaline from what I had just accomplished. I was like all jacked up in the video. I'm looking at myself like, man, I look like I'm on caffeine or something, but it's just
Yeah.
straight adrenaline, I guess.
Well, you get in I mean, you said you were in there for an hour and a half. I mean, that's a pretty massive dose of, well, you've got the norepinephrine hit and all that stuff going on. So yeah, you've got some stress hormones keeping you percolated.
Yeah, and then at that point, intermittent fasting because no food for the
Oh,
day
right.
either.
So yeah,
So
you had an enormous amount of stress hormones coursing through your veins and no water. So,
yeah,
so hey, real quick, I'm going to pay
but
some bills. Real quick, I need to pay a quick bill. I've got my sponsor of MagicMind. I want to thank everybody for being here. If you have questions, I'm going to be talking to Ben Pelton today. He is a friend of mine. He's a fellow Wim Hof method instructor. He is a jiu-jitsu, I would say, just an enthusiast. He's passionate. He's been winning competition after competition, on his way to black belt, just about to become purple belt. I'm just going to say it. So if you guys have questions on anything we're talking about, or hey, random questions that could pop up, please feel free. We're going to be talking about the mineral magnesium specifically. We're going to, a few other minerals and vitamins and supplements that Ben uses in his regular routine, and he's getting me into it too. So anyway, cheers. This is MagicMind. MagicMind is a all-in-one natural nootropic blend, and that means I'm going to ask that much better questions today, Ben.
nice, bring it.
Oh
It
yeah,
on.
I can already tell the questions are
So
absolutely
does that have a
percolating.
specific flavor, that nootropic?
It's a bit earthy, but
Okay.
it's kind of I like it. It's one of those things where you know how it gets whenever you do something and oh yeah, there's a benefit to doing this. This is the thing is I was wanting to take this anyway. My friend who's a really good videographer, he's been on this forever. And so I've tried it. And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And then I would just always forget. And you have to get it through the website. By the way, guys, if you're looking for that, it'll be posted underneath this video later, along with a coupon code. But you have to get it through the website. So I just always forgot to get it. And then they reached out to me. They're like, hey, we love the beard, man. How can we sponsor this beard? It's probably the beard. No, it would. Anyway, but I was like, yes, let's do that. So I've been taking this every day. I just completed my second book, which I'll have to send you a copy before it's too terribly long, once it is on paper. And but yeah, this has been awesome. It's got matcha in it. So it's got a matcha flavor to it. And then they sweeten it with honey. So So yeah, I've been hooked on it. So I waited till right now to take it. And now my brain is like, okay, it's like, now I have all the
Let's
questions. Yeah.
go.
It's basically like pre-workout for
For the brain.
your brain.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So anyway, thanks to my sponsor, MagicMind, for sponsoring this channel. And guys, look for the links below, including some of the things we're going to be talking about today, with the minerals and vitamins and supplements and whatnot that you take. But sorry to interrupt. We were talking about your jiu-jitsu journey, because the last time you were on, and you mentioned this before we started, was, I think it was 2 years ago, right? And at that point, you were training some other people. Is that right? You had already started training people out of school. And so you were
Right.
already teaching at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so
So
you've been
over the
doing
last
this
two
entire time?
years, yeah, I've been having students Monday, Wednesday, Friday is a beginner's class. And then Tuesday, Thursday is more of an intermediate style class. And yeah, I've had students throughout the last 2 years, and some of them have lost 50 pounds training jujitsu,
Wow.
more mobility, more flexibility, just more happiness with life. So it's been really cool from my perspective to watch these people come through. And only being a blue belt teaching jujitsu, it's just really something I look forward to in the rest of my life, being a black belt, to just keep teaching people and seeing how martial arts, and specifically jujitsu, can be such a transformative method for people. So yeah, I've been
Yeah.
teaching since the last time we talked, and then I had this competition over the weekend that I won.
Well, I know I trained jujitsu for a couple years. Actually, in 2020 is whenever two things happened. Well, we all know what happened in 2020, but another thing that happened is my book came out, and then I got real busy, and I had to make a decision. I was between all the different physical fitness things that I did, and of course, the gym closed for a while, and I stuck with one, and I stopped the other, and I do regret it, because I thought jujitsu was just such an amazing modality of, there's nothing else that you can do. Because I also trained some Kali. I did a little bit of that and a little bit of just like overall self-defense. But there's nothing else you can't do those things at full power. You can't train knives at full strength. I mean, I guess you can once, but
Exactly.
after that, it's you got to get a new training partner, or they have to get a new training partner. So, I've always really felt like jujitsu is I think it's been compared to like physical chess, like the kind of, you're really thinking a few moves in advance. But what got you into it in the first place? I know, breathwork, you were doing beforehand, you were doing breathwork, a lot of different physical fitness modalities.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about what is the other one that TAC Fit, I think you also do. Is that right?
Right. So I was doing TAC Fit, and then I had just started looking further into the GOTA program.
GOTA, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So last time we talked, I was working on a TAC Fit certification, and then I really stumbled hard into the GOTA realm. And I was telling you about it in the last video, but now I went through the whole instructor certification process to be a GOTA instructor, movement instructor.
Nice.
So that was the program that I'm really focused on right now. I've been really helping people change their postures and just be out of pain. Really, that's the biggest thing I'm helping clients with, is feel pain free. But what got me into jujitsu was that I was a movement practitioner before jujitsu. I had already discovered Edu Portal back in 2014, who's a movement expert with Conor McGregor as his movement coach. So I call myself a movement connoisseur. So I'm interested in, yeah, exactly.
I like it.
I'm interested in movements from just a perspective of how they change the body, they change the mindset, they change how you feel long term, right? Different movements can be destructive to your connective tissue, other movements are therapeutic. And so I've been very fascinated with like this full spectrum of Some movements are therapeutic, some movements are performance based, and you have this spectrum in between where you can take a therapeutic movement and make it a performance one, or
Hmm.
regress a performance movement and make it more therapeutic for the body. And so you have this bridge between rehab and performance that I was very interested in. And then because of my ability to move well, some jujitsu guys were coming to my movement class and were saying, "Hey, this class is amazing. It's really helpful for my jujitsu game. Why don't you come play jujitsu with us?" And I
I
really,
love that.
exactly, why don't you come play? But I was a little intimidated because I'd never done martial arts growing up.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really understand why people would want to go into that mat and strangle each other. It didn't click yet. And so I moved to a new city, Vero Beach, Florida, and I didn't know anyone there. And I feel like a lot of people that join jiu-jitsu gyms have a similar story to that, which is like they just moved to a new city. They don't necessarily have a network of friends and family. And so they hear that jiu-jitsu is a good thing to try. They try it out. And next thing you know, they develop a huge community of people that are all interested in getting better, being a better martial artist, better person off the mat. So yeah, movement took me to jujitsu, and then jujitsu is what swallowed me in. Because the movement spectrum in jujitsu, the martial arts, is massive, right? Like you have
Yeah.
conventional lifting with barbell, and that's a very like standard boxed in kind of movement practice where you lift the bar and you put the bar. You do these things that are very uniform to the bar. With
Hmm.
jujitsu, you can articulate and invert and flip over and grab someone's leg and grab the gi. And so
Yeah.
now the movements have just gone like infinite on what you could
Yeah.
practice. So yeah, that's what really took me into jujitsu is just my interest in movement, and then my ability to be a mover already allowed jujitsu to just download very easily into my practice.
Now, when you trained, when you started training, how long was it? Just out of curiosity, because I was rolling pretty early, and I know a lot of people say they didn't get a chance to roll until months passed. And I think it was maybe my second lesson that I was rolling, and I think it was the coach wanted to humble me. At the time, I was probably about, let's see, right now I'm about 220, 225. At the time I was, no, at the time I was about 220, 225. Right now I'm probably just like 210. But I was more muscular at the time. And, I think he saw this dude coming in. The funny thing is I was going in there because there was all these school shootings, and I was an English professor. And eventually the people at my university, they were like, "Hey, Jesse, where are you during this hour? Because we have an unruly student who's, I'm like, guys, I lift weights. I don't know how to use these things,
Reporting Jesse, reporting Jesse.
no, I was like, and so I was like, oh crap. So I'm going to have to figure out how to use my arms and legs. And so I think he wanted to humble me. So what he did is he said, okay. And the nice thing was it was an evening session, and I was pretty much the only person there. Like it was one of those where not many people were there. And he said, okay, you're going to do your first roll. Heather, come here. And I was like, okay, well, okay, little lady, I'll go easy on you and all this stuff. And this girl had to be maybe 120 pounds soaking wet, and tapped me in no time. And I was just like, it was ridiculous, and I think it was one of those things. He wanted to humble me, but he also wanted to say, this stuff is real, right? It's legit. It's not just, Karate Kid stuff. This is really applicable. And if a person half your weight and size is going to be able to tap you that quickly, just think about, the power of just learning what leverage is all about, learning, just how to use your body. And after that, I was really hooked. I stayed with it. Like I said, it wasn't until 2020 that I quit. And, it was one of those things where time, and honestly,
Exactly.
it did not download very easily to me. I loved it, but for me, it was like I was going in a million different directions. I don't think it didn't download. Like I was still like bleach white belt after 2 years
Right.
of doing it pretty regularly. So, but I absolutely love watching jiu-jitsu, love seeing your progress. And so now you're coming into hopefully purple belt. And then beyond that, after purple belt, is there a brown belt? Where's it go from there?
Yes. Yeah, after purple, you got your brown belt, and then after brown, you get your black belt.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'm graduating my master's degree coming up and getting closer to that PhD degree. That black they call the black belt the PhD. So it's like I just got my bachelor's degree at blue belt, working on that master's in purple, and then brown belt, trying to get to that PhD black belt.
Oh man.
So yeah, it's a process, like 5 years in, and I just know like I have at least another 5 years. So it's just a commitment that it's what I'm working towards for sure.
Now, would you say this is one of those things where I see jiu-jitsu being done all different ages? How old are you?
I'm 33.
33. And at 33, you're not noticing huge wear and tear. And
I mean, for sure, there's definitely some wear and tear, but I get your point, right? Like I'm not in my 70s yet to really figure out what damage I did.
Oh, brother, I'm telling you this. I'm turning 42 this month. And this is the crazy thing. So I feel incredibly young, right? It was weird. Turning 30 actually psychologically was a bigger deal than turning 40. Now, when I turn an age, I'm like, when is it that I get old? Is that supposed to happen? Because I still feel great. But I will say, that whenever I was 33, like you met me when I was 35, I think that was 20. Yeah. When I was 35. And so, but when I was 33, I had never injured myself, really. I had never really injured myself. Like now I know what injury is all about. I've messed up my shoulders multiple times. I'm feeling great now. I've learned the essence of, okay, you better warm up. You got to do mobility. You got to, you know what I mean? But back at 33, man, I was just like, warm up. What are you talking about? Max weight, first set, max weight, to failure. And it didn't matter because I had not had those experiences yet. Maybe I'm trying to think, maybe at 33, I was starting to get a few injuries. Now I wasn't as intense as you are. And you've been far more physical. Like my 20s, I didn't do any physical fitness at all. I was just like and I think this was as much as I ever did physical, but are you noticing how is it that you keep from having the major wear and tear? Like, and this is what we're going to be, one of the things I was wanting to talk to you about when it comes to minerals and things like that, because I'm always interested in this, especially with magnesium, because it's such a mystery. There's so many different kinds of magnesium out there. And guys, thank you so much for the for the comments. I'm going to get to these. James, stick around. James wants to know about shamanic breath work. So, hey, maybe we'll talk a little bit about shamanic breath work, psychedelic styles. And then let's see here. Hey, a fan from Dill. And hey, thank you so much for being here, Arzil. And stick around. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. If you have other questions, feel free. But one of the things I was talking to you, Ben, about before was, okay, so I've been taking magnesium L-threonate. I started taking that maybe about a year ago, to help me get a better night's sleep. I've always been a real light sleeper. Actually, the whole reason I got into breath work is just because I've always been such a high dopamine, high rumination. I worry a lot, that like just naturally, I don't know, my ancestors that I descended from were probably, the reason why we survived is because we were probably just always freaked out. And it's just like, what? Huh? What's that sound? Okay. And so like you couldn't sneak up on us probably. It's always been hard for me to chill. And so breathwork has been such an amazing thing for me there. But, still I was like, okay, I need to get a better night's sleep, a lot of light sleep, but I need that deep sleep as well. So I started taking magnesium L-threonate and that's helped some. I noticed a little bit of diminishing returns. It was a little better earlier on. And then recently, maybe not. I've been taking ZMA for a long time. I think since I was in my 20s, I've taken ZMA. And I'm like, hey, you know, minerals and vitamins, you know, to keep my testosterone high, you know, I'm going to want that. Got to keep them gains.
Right.
And
All day.
all day, you know? And so I've been taking these things, but I'm curious, you're doing these things. I mean, you're high intensity. And you need a lot of that flexibility. What does your regimen look like, just on a regular basis, diet, and
Yeah.
help me, Ben?
So Jesse, great question about what do I do to minimize wear and tear. And so
Yeah.
part of it is, like you said, is having that warm up, making sure that you're taking those joints and you're warming them up, and then even taking extra time for cool down after you've trained real hard,
Mm-hmm.
and do some mobility and regressive movements afterwards, and some breath work to really regulate the nervous system is very important with training heavily. But what I really do believe is that I take a ridiculous amount of minerals daily. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that for 10 years. And so I believe even before I started my jiu-jitsu journey, I was already super saturated in minerals, specifically magnesium. And that
Yeah.
has allowed my connective tissue, the fascia, to really just be flexible and able to be mobile. And so yeah, I really think that my minerals, what I do every 24 hours is I take a gallon jug and I go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and I dose that gallon jug like a canteen that I'm going to drink from all day. And I put magnesium, I put a full spectrum electrolyte formula in it. I also add potassium. So throughout the day, I'm constantly dosing myself with minerals. And, these specific minerals are proven through this research to get into your blood markers within 3 hours.
Okay.
So you're constantly replenishing with these ionic minerals that I take every couple hours. It's saturating into your system. So I know for fact that those minerals have been huge for my flexibility. And then, I've seen situations where I had a student, he was like 6'5",
Mm-hmm.
to probably like 250 when he came in, and
Yeah.
this kid's 20, he's 22. So he's just a young kid. And he's
Yeah.
doing the training with me. And I asked him to just go like knee on belly, which is
Yeah.
just like putting yourself into a deep lunge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden he starts having a hamstring cramp.
Oh my
He's
God.
like, oh, I'm cramping. And I was like, wait, what just happened? And the kid was so deficient in minerals that just by him going down to like this deep lunge position, his muscles tightened up and he had a muscle cramp.
Oh
So
my
I'm like,
God.
listen, dude, you
Yeah.
need to get on some magnesium. So he gets on the magnesium, and right away, within a couple of weeks, the cramps were just totally gone, and they never came back. So,
And that can be in the weirdest places too. My wife, she got into distance running. So she was doing all these marathons and like the ultra marathons. And actually I was trying to, as a side note, I was trying to be like, we'll do this together. This will be a way we can bond, right, with my wife. And so I started going out there, don't, just hammering away at my every joint in my body. I was like, yeah, this is great. 225 pounds ish, somewhere around there. I had not lost weight yet. I was just doing my best. And then I had like Chucks on, like not even running shoes. And I tore my meniscus. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I won't be doing that with you, wife. Actually, that was before I even met you. Because I tore my meniscus before we went. No, it was right before we went to Colorado to train. So I remember I tore my meniscus. I was like, we're going to climb a mountain up there, and I've got this torn meniscus. Great, I mean,
wow.
And so it didn't keep me from doing anything.
Challenge.
And
Yeah,
then
no, I didn't even know you had that.
Yeah. And so the crazy thing is I tore my other one somewhere, somehow. I don't even know how I tore the other one. So I've got 2 torn meniscuses, have not had any surgeries. I don't feel a bit of pain at all. And of course, health practices, I mean, they really pay off. But, one of the things that she always has happened, especially on these longer ones, and typically she needs to replenish minerals and electrolytes, right, is the toe cramps. Of all places to cramp. I've never had a toe cramp before. I can only imagine how painful that would be. I've had Charlie horses.
I've gotten the bottom of my foot, but I've never had my toes cramped. But the arch is really
an arch would be awful. I can't imagine that. I've been very fortunate with my feet that I've never had any issue, but I can only imagine what that's like. But cramping
in a pool.
Oh,
I was playing water
dude.
polo in middle school, and all of a sudden my foot cramped up, and I kid you not, that is one of the worst cramps you could ever have is your foot, because you don't necessarily know how to like relax it,
right.
It's just knotted up, and you're like trying to in a pool swimming. So
so you've got this drowning potential even at that point, so that's even better. So, okay. So when it comes to magnesium, though, there's a lot of different ones out there. So my family used to own a nutrition store. And so I would take all the, we like magnesium oxide and, malates and all these other ones. Now you sent me, and I really appreciate it. And guys, after this live feed, we'll put some links down below so you can check out this particular brand. But you sent me Remag. Actually, hey, look at that. You sent me Remag. And so with this stuff, I've just been adding it to my water. Now it's Pico Ionic. Is that how to say that? So what is it? Why is there a difference? What is the story behind that?
Okay. So when you consume supplements, they need to stabilize the supplement so that the nutrient doesn't corrode while it's being in the packaging, and it's still bioavailable when you go to consume it.
Right.
So when they're compounding these different elements together to stabilize them, that's where you get a magnesium oxide, or you get a magnesium chloride. Or the L3, like you were saying, is that they're taking the magnesium element and they're connecting it with another element so that both elements will not oxidize to the air around it, and they become stable. So what happens is when they're compounding some of these magnesiums, they have to be crystallized into a powder to stabilize them so that they're then consumable. They put them in either a tub or they put them in the capsules. But either way, what's happening is they're taking a really small form of the elements, bonding them together, and normally they'll crystallize. If you can imagine making rock sugar candy, right? With the stick, you put it in the sugar water, right? And then as you pull the stick out, these crystals start to grow out on this stick. Well, that's kind of like what we're doing with making these powdered supplements, is they're mixing together solutions, and then they crystallize into these larger structures that we end up consuming. Now, what happens is that your gut has to take that crystallized form of those compounds and start to break them down using enzymes and water in your gut to snap them apart. Depending on the bond that they use, it could be actually very difficult to separate them even inside of us. So what happens with a lot of magnesiums that tend to be laxative, which really isn't what magnesium is for. Magnesium has all these different processes in our body that it's used for, but somehow doctors will recommend, like, hey, you have constipation, take this magnesium brand. It will loosen you up. Well, the reason that happens is the bonding of that magnesium can't separate well enough, so that it stays together and moves down the intestinal tract as this magnesium bonded powder. And it might bump into the wall a little bit in the intestinal tract. And when it does that, it's a natural relaxer. So that intestinal wall just kind of bumping down with this powdered magnesium is relaxing its way out. So that's the biggest problem that people are dealing with consuming magnesium products, is that a majority of it never gets past that intestinal wall into the blood to make an impact in the body, because it just gets pushed out too quickly, which a lot of people know.
Interesting.
They're like,
Okay.
oh no, this magnesium
Because
is
I said
gonna
that
make me go to
too.
the bathroom.
Yeah, I was like,
Exactly. So
okay, hey man, you know, I already take some
hey, I don't
magnesium.
want to. We're
So
gonna have a problem.
listen,
Like,
I think anybody
it's a
that's
legit.
listening,
Yeah, like
we've all had that, and you've taken magnesium, you're like, oh my God. And then it's just a nightmare, right? So when you take it ionically,
so check this out.
What happens?
Okay, this is really exciting stuff. And this is why I wanted to share this information with you, is that when we take a meter stick, right? And we go to a centimeter, and then we go to a decimeter, then a centimeter, and then you can go to a nanometer, and then you can go to a picometer. Okay, so we're going smaller and smaller and smaller in size of measuring the size of particles.
Okay.
And so what this magnesium, the Remag, is they've taken the individual particles, which are called ions of magnesium, and they stabilize them at that small, tiny, like we're pico size. Like
pico size, not even micro.
If we go into if we go into mathematics, and you go to the exponential mathematical point, like e to the 9 is nano. You're going to go e to the 12, negative 12. So it's literally like the smallest possible thing you can get. And they stabilize that into this liquid form. So now what's happening is, if we took a salt crystal, like sea salt from a salt shaker, and we looked at it through a microscope, the crystal itself would look like an iceberg. It would look like a massive rock on this microscopic scale. So that in itself is massive compared to the pico size. When you have, it's like an iceberg on the, like, if we measured it in decimeters, you know, you could actually use a decimeter measurer because it fits in that little piece of salt. But if we go to pico, it's going to look like a massive thing in relative to the ion.
This reminds me.
I get excited about.
Yeah, I love it. No, so this reminds me of, actually, I used to go to a functional medicine doctor, and you know, they take your hair and your feces and your blood and like everything. They basically are like, okay, we're going to check out every part of you. And one of the things they found was that this is back like 15 years ago. They found that I was deficient in zinc. And so I was like, cool, no problem. My family runs a nutrition store. I'll just take one of these zinc tablets, you know. And I was taking zinc, like a pretty high dose, because I was like, I'm deficient. Let's get this on.
Right.
And went back. They're like, yeah, no noticeable change at all. I'm like, no, dude, you got to understand, I've been popping these pills. And it was like, I forget if it was zinc malate or oxide or what zinc it was, but it wasn't until I was taking an ionic form of zinc that I saw any movement in that needle. And so I'm like, okay, so this is starting to make sense here. So so a lot of times what we're seeing is it's just difficult for that bond to break. And I think about also what is choline bitartrate, which is sold in every nutrition store ever, which is completely useless. Everybody wants choline because it's this great thing for your brain. For you know, everybody's wanting to get the nootropic effect, but it's not absorbable. And it's the cheapest way you can make it. So that's why it's in all the stores, but it's not, it's completely unusable. It passes right through your system. So, okay. So just to recap, the reason why we've had the scoots, as we say sometimes, is because the magnesium bond that we've been taking, especially with oxide, I've noticed that's the one that people are like, yeah, that's the one you're going to go. So you're just having the difficulty breaking it down. It's relaxing the tissue, and then out goes the magnesium. Let the good times roll. So what are the functions? What are some of the reasons why a person would want to take zinc and get that uptake that we're taking? We can come back to the ionic form. Actually, I'm going to take some of this stuff now that we're talking about it.
Awesome.
But like, what are some of the reasons why a person Because is there the right amount of magnesium, or is there like, I don't know. I've heard it's related to a lot of
there's
things.
an RD, right? And the
Okay.
RDA is 450 milligrams of magnesium a day. And,
Okay.
obviously, depending on how large you are, metabolically speaking, like, are you a large 250-pound person, or are you a little girl that's 100 pounds? Like, metabolically,
I'm large.
that's going to change how much you need.
Okay.
Also, how metabolically active are you? Are you training every day? Are you sweating every day? Are you doing things that your body's actively extracting minerals from your reserves and then using them for being alive?
One of the things also, just in general, right? Stress, just in general, you're going to burn through quite a bit of magnesium just going through everyday stress. I know that,
Exactly.
as a breath worker, everyone that smokes who I know, they're always like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, hey, listen, don't, I'm not like a priest or something that you have to confess your sins to, but like you have, if you smoke, you run through your magnesium really quickly.
Even with the cold plunging, we could be using a lot more of the magnesium. And I've heard even in the breath holds where we're getting some of that tetnia and there's a big release of calcium into the body, your body's going to then flush in magnesium to counterbalance that calcium increase. And so even through doing constant like tetnia sessions, like you could be depleting some of your magnesium reserves. The actual cell in the mitochondria, which we have a huge influence in the Wim Hof method. The mitochondria is what is using a lot of that magnesium in the process of glycolysis. So it uses the magnesium ion. And what's cool about these liquids is that they're so small that they can fit through the ion channels of the cells. So every cell has a bunch of different pumps that are pumping minerals in and out of them, but they only pump the ions through the cell walls and into the mitochondria. So by taking this form, you're already guaranteeing that all these minerals are going to be in the smallest form that just literally fit through these pumps.
That's pretty cool. And I know it's, when you're low on magnesium, some people have like higher blood pressure. There's, we already talked about cramps, and then you just overall, a lot of times people, sleep. Yeah. Well, and that's the reason why I started taking in the first place, but it's funny because it's something that gives you energy, but also helps you sleep better.
Right. So it's the more energy, but it relaxes.
It's like, okay.
It's a win-win,
I'll take that. Win-win. I'll take that. So
but
switching gears.
Understand they just think like, wait, is it going to make me sleepy? And it's like, no, a lot of your ATP that you create requires magnesium to get that ATP.
Really? And that's because of its processing in the
Krebs cycle. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the cycle of taking sugar and turning it into the ATP, you need magnesium ions for, I think it's like 6 or 9 of the metabolic processes in the steps that require a magnesium ion and a magnesium ion and a magnesium ion. So, it's like all these little keys in the body need a magnesium ion to turn on the process.
That's awesome. That's wild. Dude. Okay. Yeah. So I'm sipping on it now. This is my 3rd day of taking it. And like, I'll be reporting back. So the thing is, folks, thanks so much for being here. I'm going to answer your question right now, James, by the way, if you're still on. If you're not, hopefully you're watching this on the replay, or I will just make a video called "To James Going: My Thoughts on Shamanic and Psychedelic Breath Patterns." Okay. Exactly. But let's talk about this real quick, and then we'll come back. And I want to respect your time, Ben. I know it's been a fast 50 minutes that's just passed by. So I just noticed the clock. So if you let me know how you're doing. So on the time, but real quick on the breathwork stuff. When it comes to shamanic styles and psychedelic styles of breathing, I have experienced a lot of amazing things. One of the things that I would say is to vet your guide. Whenever you go into these states that are super, super deep, and you're sometimes you're going for like half hour to an hour, sometimes longer in these sessions, you have to understand you're very suggestible at that point. And can be a great thing. It can also be something where, I mean, they use this stuff in cults for a reason. So I will say, always be careful who you are letting guide you through this. So make sure it's a person who's reputable. Another thing to make sure whenever you're thinking about a shamanic or psychedelic style of breath work is, what am I trying to get out of this experience? Oftentimes in a shamanic style breath work or a psychedelic, so a lot of times people put these in the same category. Technically, shamanic breath work, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be psychedelic, but let's suppose we're just talking about psychedelic breath work, the stuff that, like for instance, when it's with Wim Hof stuff, it's power breathing. We used to call it DMT breathing. Then we didn't know if it created DMT, but then they did the study and hey, we're pretty sure it does. So now we may go back to calling it DMT breathing. But the thing is, a lot of these other styles, the Wim Hof power breathing, for example, or rebirthing, or maybe you might try holotropic, or some of these. There's been a million little variations that have permeated through the past few years. What you want to understand is these are going to be super intense. Now, sometimes these are exactly what you're looking for. Other times, you may want to try something else. One of the things I've been really into lately is vivation, because vivation is, you can make it super intense or you can make it not so super intense, but either way, you get this stuff. Ultimately, the goal is to integrate your emotions. So integrating your emotions, ultimately understanding that you can enjoy the present moment as it is. And if that's what you're looking for, those are the things that I like. And those are the things that I would highly recommend a psychedelic breathwork for. Sometimes I think people get into breathwork just to get high, and I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like the good feelings, right? I mean, I've laid next to this guy multiple times, and we had the like, oh my God, type feelings, yeah. and I can't say that's a bad thing, but I think sometimes people just get in it to get high, and I think that cheapens it. And ultimately, if that's the only thing you're trying to do is just get high, I want you to understand that you're also playing with stuff with your psychology. It's real. It's not just stuff just to play with. So I would always say, if you're going to do a psychedelic style of breathwork or shamanic style or anything, go into it with an intention and make it something purposeful, as opposed to, and just experimenting is one thing, and I get that. But try to say, okay, I'm wanting to get something out of it. I'd like to grow because of it. Those are my suggestions. And I'll make a completely different video sometime whenever I have more time. I want to spend a little bit more time talking to Ben about what we've been talking about especially with magnesium, and there's some minerals that I'm curious about. So, but Ben, would you have anything to add on when it comes to, deep breath work, psychedelic stuff?
I think that was just really well put. You really made it clear that, who's guiding you is really important. I really like your point about the suggestibility, right? That you are in an altered state of mind during that practice. And so it's important that you're curating that space in the right way. And then, like you said about just people attending it to get high, for me, where I teach in Miami, every Tuesday, we go through a few different styles of breathwork, but it ends up being where people have these psychedelic experiences at the end. And I think you can't necessarily know what's going to go for certain people, like some people pop off and then some people don't. So whatever you really can do to just be in there and absorb it and experience it open-heartedly is probably the best way to go about it.
I'd love to. I'm going to be in Miami over Christmas. My family, or my wife's family, lives down there. So it's going to be, I don't speak Spanish. It'll be me. And then, it's just It's me, and then all Spanish speaking. My family is all Puerto Rican, and so it's just so I never danced before. I was this Midwestern white guy, and I never danced, and I would sing, but it was, man, I just love it. I go down there, and I don't know if I dance well, but hey, I'm moving, so so I'm happy. Now, when it comes to movement, that's of course what we've been talking about, guys. Thanks for being here. And if you can stick around, do you have a few more minutes, or do you need to?
Yeah, let's go another like 10 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. So when it comes to movement and when it comes to just energy and the things that are keeping you going, you also sent me some other stuff that is remite. So minerals. So you were talking about how you've been taking minerals for the past 10 years. What is it? Why specifically have you been focusing on minerals? Like, for instance, I try to eat well, and I know you have. I mean, you watch your diet as well. Yeah. Is there? I know we've.
Yeah, we were talking about earlier, the soil depletion, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
Most food is not grown how it should be grown, and most soil is not at the general health that soil used to be back in the day. It was a lot of it's been sprayed with glyphosate and other fertilizers and pesticides. And so glyphosate, what it does to kill weeds is that it bonds to minerals.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
So the plants can't eat the minerals that they need to live, so they die. And that's what glyphosate does to kill plants, is that it bonds to the minerals nearby and starves the weed to death. And that's why they wither and die.
Oh my God.
The name of the game. So imagine, Jesse, if you decided to eat non-organic food and it just so happened to have some residue of glyphosate in it, which we could take a natural test to show our current a little bit amount of glyphosate in our body. Yeah, which is just it's just a shame that we could even find that stuff in our body. Yeah, but think about what that's doing to the minerals that you're consuming. It's just bonding to it. It's depleting you. So we're in a mess. We're in a place that we've never been historically as humans. And so really what's happened is that I took the route of all organic. I found these minerals back in 2012. Okay. Right on. So back in 2012, I was big into organic eating, spending lots of money, making sure all the food. And I noticed that there was a difference. The biggest one for me in Florida was a strawberry. I had a strawberry that was an organic strawberry. And I thought, whoa, what have I been eating? Like, this is what strawberries should be like. And this is not what real strawberry is. So that's when I was convinced on organic versus non-organic. But here's the thing, I'm eating all the organic stuff, and then I add in these minerals just because I'm experimental, I'm biohacking, I'm trying to increase performance and training. And I felt more vibrant. I felt more energized. I felt more clarity the next day. I just felt more oomph. And I thought, this is strange. Like, this is actually noticeable that this supplement is doing something. So for, a couple of years of just, working with the magnesium, I noticed for sure that this product was making an impact in my ability to perform in lacrosse. I was still a collegiate lacrosse player at FSU. Oh, okay, University. So I was in the field trying these products out, like, in games. And I noticed a huge impact with my endurance and capacity. So, imagine having a 10-year window to experiment with a certain product. Like, I've done it. All sorts of different experiments with it. And I've given it to different people throughout those years and watched how they react to it. So, this research that came out is really, really cool stuff. If I got a moment, I can go. Yeah,
please. Yeah. What happened? Tell me about it.
Okay. So what they did is they compared the magnesium chloride ions to magnesium oxide. Which
oh my God. Okay. That's the one everybody can buy. Yeah.
But what they were trying to do by this study is show that this new marker of magnesium ions in your blood is a better marker for measuring your magnesium levels compared to blood serum and urine levels of magnesium testing. So the idea is that, through this study, they showed that when you take a 300 milligram dosage that your blood serum and urine levels won't really move. They react very stabilized in your body. So those markers for being tested aren't necessarily good indicators of deficiency, because they'll
Okay.
show you in your normal range, like, oh, your blood serum for magnesium looks normal, because it does a really good job at stabilizing that number. If it goes way off, you're going to have a problem. Just kind of like the blood pH level stays in a relatively normal level. Same with blood
Yeah.
serum. So the same thing with the urine is that it doesn't really increase that much. And then what they showed in the study is that within 3 hours, the ionized magnesium marker, that
Yeah.
is like, it's like testing for your electrolytes. Like when you get your blood done,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
sodium, you get chloride. Well, they should be including in that the magnesium ion test that shows
The
you
thing
where
that
you're.
actually is in there doing the thing. Yeah. That makes
Yeah,
total
the
sense.
actual
Yeah.
electrolyte form of the magnesium, which is called magnesium ions. So they showed a significantly marked increase in 3 hours from consuming these ions on the magnesium ion marker. So it's a good thing, because what it's showing is that our doctors should be using that test to
Yeah.
determine what our magnesium saturation levels really are, and then that way we can determine whether or not your symptoms are related to a magnesium deficiency, versus you come in and they say, oh, your markers look good, so maybe it's something else that's causing the migraines or the stress or whatever, but
Hmm.
they never check the ionized magnesium levels. So this
Interesting.
this study is called circulating ionized magnesium as a measure of supplement bioavailability. So
Send
that's
me,
the
if you
thing.
don't mind, yeah, send me the link to that, and I'll post it below so that everybody can take a look. So
For
that's
sure.
awesome. And have you had your testosterone checked?
Not recently.
Yeah.
I just got a new primary care doctor, so we're gonna get that.
Yeah, check that out. So because I've heard a lot about, especially the correlation between testosterone and magnesium. And like I was saying, I'm turning 42 this month. You think about it. And so I'm in the process of I'd like to do the 1,000-pound club. Okay. So I'm way off. I've got a long way to go.
Hey, you got to start somewhere, right?
But
You gotta
yeah,
start
I
somewhere.
think and the thing is, so right now I just got 405 on my deadlift.
Dude, that's massive.
So I'm like, okay, I'm pretty happy with that. And then the thing is, though, you kind of have to get 315 on
Bench
the
press.
bench, and you kind
Yeah,
of
you
need to
got
get, I'm nowhere close. My chest, like,
You could get 315 on a squat for sure.
oh
You
yeah,
got
I can
that.
get 315 on the squat. And then so I've got to get 315 on my bench, or I guess I can go a little bit lower than that. But
Yeah, like between 250 and 275 is a nice little, like, you're gonna squeeze
little
more
wiggle
on your
room.
squat versus the bench press. But 250 is not too far from 2 plates on the bar.
Right. So I've tested my testosterone a few times in the past few years. When I turned 40, I was like, okay, I need to know. Just tell me the bad news. Because I was just like, it's probably terrible. What made it? Oh, I took these tests that you take through the mail. And you know how they advertise, oh, check your blood level, take testosterone through the mail. And I checked and it was low. And I was like, oh man. And then I checked it again after making adjustments. And I'm like, okay, I know it's got to be right. Checked it again. It was even lower. I was like, no. And I was like, what's going on? So I went to my doctor. I'm like, listen, I've just taken these 2 tests. Do I need to think about taking something, to get me back into the manly zone? I said, I feel like I'm strong, but I'm like, but I'm not like ogre huge maybe, or, you start wondering. And then she's like, sure, let's take the test. And then I came back, everything was fine. I don't have insanely high testosterone, but it was about 600. So, I mean, I was okay. I was like, yeah, that's fine. Solid. I would love to have higher, but 600 was great. And so I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good there. But I am excited to see, especially with ionized magnesium. I've never taken that before. I've taken the ionized zinc, and I'm going to continue to take that. but actually in Remite, it has, I think it's got
Yeah,
it's got the zinc in there
there
too.
is zinc and there is copper in here. So one of the new products that Dr. Dean released was a zinc ionic form, but plus copper ionic form. So it's a 10-to-1 ratio where sometimes if you take too much zinc, you could
Right.
deplete your copper.
And
So
vice versa.
putting
Yeah.
them- Exactly. So putting them together in the same ionic form, to me, has been, that product's crazy. The copper has
That
been
makes
pretty
sense.
powerful for
Yeah.
boosting my energy. You know, like you wouldn't imagine copper as an energetic mineral, but it really does give you an extra. Plus, the immune benefits of that zinc and copper together are huge with the immune system. So dealing with this whole mess we've been in for the last 2 years, that's what happened. Is they had released their zinc. You know, it's just to go on a little tangent. Hydrochloroquine, the drug that's been used to treat the viruses.
Yeah.
What it does mechanistically is that it helps drive zinc inside cells. Okay, so when they treat people for COVID with this hydrochloroquine, they give them hydrochloroquine and a zinc supplement tablet.
Oh, interesting.
And what they
when
take it, the zinc goes in the body, and then the hydrochloroquine drives that zinc in the cells, and then the zinc inside the cells
keeps it from replicating. Yeah.
Yep. So the crazy thing about Dr. Dean is she created a Pico Ionic zinc.
So it already goes in there.
It doesn't need the drug to take it in
there.
You know?
My God,
like,
that is so cool. All right.
Yeah,
so
it's some powerful stuff for sure.
That is sweet. Sure. Well, it's obviously working, and you're killing it with jiu-jitsu, looking great, my friend. It's always good to catch up, and it's never like long enough that we get to talk. But I do want to respect your time, and we're going to be in touch, and I'll probably have you back on before too terribly long, because I'll need to report back to you how these things are working for me. So
for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to do a follow-up with you, and I can even dive in a little bit more about how I use it individually myself.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Well, hey, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks for the questions. James, if you didn't see the answer that I was talking about, I'll go even deeper for you in another one. He's been asking me this question, and I've been like, catch me on the live. And then we just only had so much time today, James. So I promise on my next live, I'll just dive in first thing. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Ben, as always, for being here. I mean, it's good to see your face, if nothing else. And thanks for these supplements. I'll be taking them and just kind of reporting back. I may do a few just posts, guys, for those of you guys who are interested in seeing how this works. So thanks so much.